Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. Hope everyone is having a safe and happy holidays and spending time with the family. We've have a lot of active weather to talk about over the next 7 to 10 days. We'll really break down the details for you so you can plan ahead and stay well ahead of the storm. So let's head out in the Pacific and take a look at the overall jet stream today, because it's in full effect with this atmospheric river. We've got relentless systems going to be coming in from the Bering Sea, diving down and off the west coast. Once we get into the middle of the country, it's transition day on Wednesday here as the winds turn around. We've been in that Arctic air mass for the last 2 weeks. And once the winds turn around, that's really going to be starting to elevate the temperatures and increase the moisture as well. But as we tap into tomorrow, heading into Friday, going into Saturday, once that jet stream enters the midsections of the country, it's going to dive all the way down into Mexico, and it's going to lose it over the mountains of Mexico, but it's going to pick it back up again once it's being able to tap into some of that Gulf moisture. And when it does, that could be spelling trouble for some severe storms as we head into Thursday, Friday, and Saturday time frame. And then heading into next week, we still have that atmospheric river continue to pummel the west coast with the relentless systems coming down. Then again, once we get into the midsection of the country, by then we've been well warmed for a couple of days, and the synoptic setup is far greater by then. We could even be looking at an enhanced severe threat heading into your Monday and Tuesday time frame once we flip the calendar. So I appreciate all my followers out there. If you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content, and I would love to hit 150,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So let's really delve into the details and break this thing down for you day by day, because look at the hazard setup. We had all the heavier rain that pummeled the west coast yesterday. Now that transfers inland, and we still have those winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings where, man, they're going to get pummeled in the mountains there. And then the high winds are going to be across the midsection of the country today. We got high wind warnings for the Texas Panhandle. That just extends into Oklahoma and portions of Kansas here, going into Missouri. And we're still hanging on with that cold air, but this is going to be the last of it down here in far extreme portions of Florida and even into the Georgia area, where we do have some freeze warnings this morning. So let's break down the details for today on your Wednesday. We're going to see the winds turn around. So this is Texas. We're going to start to see the southwest winds creep up, complements of this warm front. We could be even looking at 70 in Dallas, even 80 out here in West Texas, as this warmer temperatures continue to surge northeast. Back behind it, all that rain that was over California yesterday has now transferred over to the desert southwest. Places into Phoenix are going to be seeing that moderate rain today. But just to the north of this boundary, where this little mini cold front lies, that's where the snow opportunities lie as well, in portions of Utah, into the western portions of Colorado there, extending northbound into Idaho and Montana, back into Wyoming, while much of the central and eastern 2/3 are starting to dry out. So as we do, as that first system starts to come in and going to be able to tap into some of that Gulf moisture, that could spell trouble the day on Thursday with some stronger storms, if not some severe storms, setting up into far east Texas, heading into Louisiana, creeping all the way up into Arkansas. You can see the warm front by then sneaking all the way up into Illinois and Indiana. Back behind it, we are going to be seeing some little transition. So we could be looking at some ice starting to set up on Thursday morning, especially into northwest portions of Iowa, getting into southern portions of South Dakota and Minnesota, and then all snow on the backside of this into portions of Nebraska and Kansas. Yet we have another system coming in off the west coast with very heavy rain, compounding all the moisture that's going to be pummeling the west coast really all the rest of this week and even into next week. And then once you hit the interior regions in the Intermountain West, it transfers to all snow by then. So once we head into your severe threat, once we get into tapping into some of that Gulf moisture, we do have a marginal risk of storms on Thursday about 5-6 o'clock. I think things kick off. Here's what the high resolution guidance looks like around 5-6 o'clock into far east Texas. We have some supercell thunderstorms, and I do feel this could actually be upgraded to a slight risk heading in tomorrow. So you've got to be on high alert from strong storms. We're talking some moderate, larger hail with damaging winds, and an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out in this sector headed into your Thursday late afternoon into the evening time frame. And that threat will just shift into portions of Louisiana, getting into Arkansas deeper into the nighttime hours. Then as we head into Friday, that same system continues to shift a little bit further east. So once it does, it's going to be tapping into a little bit more of that Gulf moisture. So we have the severe threat shifting into Louisiana, heading into Arkansas, but now lifting a little bit further north into portions of western Tennessee, and then transferring to all moderate rain as we get into the Ohio Valley, with yet another system coming in off the west coast, adding to those rain totals along the coast here into Washington and Oregon, portions of California. Again, heavier snows in the Intermountain West with the ski countries are going to be loving it for days to come with relentless snow. Here's the setup as we go into your Friday time frame, as those storms come out of Far East Texas from Thursday night into Friday morning. They'll be shifting into portions of Shreveport now, getting into Arkansas. Now they extend as far north as portions of Missouri there. And then as we get deeper into the day, they'll shift over into Louisiana, getting into Mississippi and portions of Alabama and western Tennessee as we get deeper into the day on your Friday time frame. So as we do and go into Saturday, that same storm threat will shift a little bit further off into the east. So now we're talking places into Alabama, getting into the Florida Panhandle, back into Georgia, back into the Carolinas. Now this extends further into eastern portions of Tennessee. Pretty much the entire state of Kentucky should see some, at least a marginal risk for some severe storms. I depicted the dew points, because the dew points are typically crucial, because you typically have to have about 55 as a minimal dew point to even talk about some severe weather. And you can actually see as it taps into some of that Gulf moisture, as the south winds turn around, it's going to be elevating those dew points and start creeping into the middle 60s. Plenty warm for severe weather down here, but even shifting as far north as into Tennessee, even into Kentucky, we're starting to see some 55-degree dew points. That's why we have at least a slight marginal risk for at least some gustier winds reaching that far north, because you're still going to be in the warm sector. So as we flip the calendar and head into your January 1st New Year's Day timeframe, we're going to be looking at yet another dynamic system that continues to grow in intensity and stronger than expected. Going to be diving down again from the Bering Sea, heading in off the west coast with more heavier rain. But this one really starts to dig and pull in a lot of that Pacific moisture, tap it into some more Gulf moisture. And then once we head into Monday, you got to realize we've been warm for a couple of days. We're starting the transition today. So we got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the way into Sunday. Going into Monday, those temperatures are going to be plenty elevated. You're going to be building that atmospheric energy up in the higher levels. Now we have a low-level jet really get cranking, and it turns negatively tilted with a very kind of like an eye almost forming into portions of Kansas. But on the southeast side of there, the synoptic setup is far greater with this system than what you're going to be seeing from that Thursday, Friday, Saturday time frame. So we also have a lot more water vapor to tap into as well. So looking at the water vapor transport index, we have that atmospheric river continue to pummel out west with just relentless drought busting rains for them. But once we head and tap into some of that Gulf moisture, it's really going to be increasing some of the moisture supply. It's got ample moisture to feed into that low level jet. You can actually see where the low is by then, parked over Kansas, and to the northwest side of there, it's down to 984, right? So that's got a cold core with it. It's got some very heavy snow with it to the northwest side of there, but also going to be elevating the dew points as well and increasing the severe threat. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center has already highlighted a day 6 for severe storms as we head into your Monday timeframe. So here's the latest Colorado State University index, as I think the initiation will be shifting just a little bit further off west, initiation just right, maybe over the Dallas-Fort Worth area, over Oklahoma as more of a marginal tight risk. But once you get into far eastern portions of Texas, but especially into Louisiana, into Arkansas, into Mississippi, into western portions of Tennessee and Kentucky, this is a day six risk, guys. This is all three modes of severe weather. Day 6 typically don't end well once we get in closer to that time frame, because that's hinting at the Storm Prediction Center is looking at all the ensemble minimum guidance and saying, hey, we've got a really good probability, a likelihood that things are going to be coming together with this great synoptic setup that we have in place, that things could get really bumpy as we head into Monday time frame of next week, and that will just extend into Tuesday. So here's the setup on the surface map for Monday. So we have the initiation of storms. I think they originate basically right along the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but then shift eastbound as we get deeper into the day to the northwest flank of there's your freezing line. To the northwest side of that low pressure, that's where the heavier snows are going to be flying into Kansas and in Nebraska, getting into portions of Iowa there, reaching back into South Dakota, going into Minnesota here, and we're going to have a transition to some ice as well that we're going to have to be concerned about, with more rain going to be heading in off the west coast for Seattle and to Portland, for northern portions of California. And then going into Tuesday timeframe, that severe threat shifts a little bit further east, right? So now we're talking even a greater area for severe storms as we head into your Tuesday of next week. So all along the coast here into the southeast, extending through the Tennessee Valley, but this time extending all the way up into the Ohio Valley potentially, and even reaching far north as portions of Pennsylvania into West Virginia could have a possibility for some severe storms. So I know what you're probably asking is like, how is that possible? It's January 3rd, right? Well, look at this. Look at the temperatures. This is the temperatures by January 3rd, right? These are high temperatures, folks, for January 3rd, right? We got 70s draped along the deep south. We got 80s all the way down into Florida. I mean, that's a far cry from the high of 50 in Miami on Christmas Day. Now we're talking in the 80s. Now, and then those temperatures elevate into 67 in Tennessee, 64 in Kentucky. We're talking 61 in Ohio, 63 in Pittsburgh. That is plenty warm, guys. Now let's look at the dew points, right? We talked about that crucial threshold of 55. It's plenty 55 down here. I mean, we're in the mid 60s. This is almost like a spring day, right? I mean, then lifting all the way up into the Tennessee Valley, and those higher dew points are getting into, say, 58 in Ohio and reaching 56 in Michigan there. That is crazy high. That's why the severe threat could even lift as far north as there. Now, we're talking maybe marginal and gusty winds, but still, even to talk about some severe. So it doesn't matter what the calendar says. It matters what the atmosphere says. And the atmosphere says the conditions are prime for severe weather going into Monday and Tuesday of next week. So here's the setup on the surface map. Heading into the southeast, we'll have all those severe storms. The winds, the southwest winds will pull in that Gulf moisture, reaching it all the way as all rain into Pennsylvania, getting into Jersey, upstate New York, along the coast here in Massachusetts and Connecticut. But it's all snow just on the northwest side of there, that heavier snow bands over Iowa into Minnesota, now reaching into portions of Wisconsin there. And then again, we have on the January 4th, and again, this is just a broken record, even a stronger system will come in off the west coast, really adding to those totals and the rainfall department along the west coast, and even as far south as Southern California. Man, Los Angeles gets crushed over the next 7 to 10 days of heavier rainfall, and there's no end in sight because we have relentless systems coming on off the west coast. Obviously, this area is in a desperate need of rainfall, but man, it really comes in a big way. So let's zoom into some of these rainfall totals as we got these two systems, right? We talked about the split in the jet stream. We're going to have a little bit of a dry slot where the jet stream splits, and where it picks back up again, pulls in some of that Gulf moisture. That's when we could be looking at some heavier rains between now and the 5th time frame of January, some 4 to 6 inch amounts along the deep south, a little bit lighter amounts, but again, still 3 to 5 inch swath through the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley, getting up into the mid-Atlantic, and the little bit lighter amounts, 1 to 2 inches, possibly 3, going into the Northeast. Most of this will be in the form of snow, but look at that along the West Coast, guys. That is a lot of heavy rain pummeling the West Coast, especially California. I mean, look at that, 10 to 15 inches of precipitation over the mountains there, and even along the coast, extending to the entire state of California, into Nevada, getting into the desert Southwest, into the Four Corners regions. So let's zoom into this, right? Let's look at this. We're talking about 3 inches into San Diego, potentially 5 inches in Oceanside between now and say January 5th timeframe. Riverside, 6 inches. You get up there in San Jose, 6 inches of rainfall. So this is going to become a compounding effect over a 7-day time frame. But look at that. Look at what the latest European guidance is. 9 inches in Los Angeles. If that happens, even half of that happens, would be a ton of rainfall. Let's put this in perspective. Let's really zoom in and look at the records in Los Angeles, because they date all the way back to 1877. So we're talking a huge time frame here, and they average about 14.6 inches for the entire year, right? So these are the amounts of what they've received over the last 10-11 years. They average 14. So there's only been technically 2 years that have seen above average rainfall, but they've been in an extended drought for a long periods of time. 2020, they saw 5 inches for the entire year. Look at that, 4 inches for 2017, 8 inches, 6 inches, 5. So to see 9 inches on a model for over the next 7 days, an extreme amount of rainfall for that region, to say the least. And then the snow is going to be relentless as well. So all this is going to be complements in the southwest wind. What is a huge concern is the snow melt that's going to be happening with these elevated temperatures, especially in Buffalo, where they got pummeled with 51 inches of snowfall. Now it's 101 inches on the year with that crazy blizzard that took place. Unfortunately, I'm hearing like 30 fatalities that came out of there in Buffalo alone. So man, very serious situation unfolding. And now that's the compounding effect with all the elevated temperatures and the rapid snow melt and the flooding that could take place as well. But all the heavier snows in the Intermountain West, and look at the models printing 134 inches over the mountains there. That's an insane amount. You saw the precipitation, 10 to 15 inches. So that's 11 feet. So you got all the rain hitting California, and then all that snow has got to melt eventually. So that's a lot of water gonna be hitting California this week. So hey, I appreciate you guys following. Do like this video. Definitely follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well, and catch me in the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.